Christopher. Hey, it's Mark Littlewood from Business to Software, and today I'm joined by Steli Efti, who's over in California, just waking up.
Hey guys.
Hey, Steli. No, you're not. For some reason, you don't come up when you speak in the main screen, so I'm going to try and find you. There you go. No, that seems to be working. But welcome, Steli. I'm really excited about having you at Business Software Conference USA this year. We're running 21 to 23 September in Boston, Massachusetts, and you're going to talk about sales. So most sales, or most SaaS businesses, started out with the concept that they didn't need salespeople, and one of the reasons they were running SaaS was that they could just get rid of them. How do you even exist?
I don't know. I mean, I think I exist because, or salespeople in general exist in SaaS today because, you know, there's wishful thinking that we all have. There's certain types of goals that we all have that in some cases can work depending on the business and the market that you're in, but most of the time in reality, it's just not a feasible plan to action. So of course, we all just want to create a simple service, a simple SaaS app, and then create some kind of magical growth engine, and then just sit back and see the self-service freemium growth machine magically grow our revenue numbers month over month and not have to do anything. That would be kind of the perfect scenario, and I'm totally in on that dream and goal. But I think that most SaaS businesses, especially the ones that are in B2B, sooner or later, many of them, if not most, need to understand that when your target audience are businesses, you're going to have to do some kind of a sales in some kind of a fashion. It could be all inbound, it can be outbound, it can be large enterprises, it can be small businesses, but many SaaS businesses just need a sales force at the end of the day. And even one of the business that defined the word SaaS, and it's probably the biggest SaaS business in the world, has a massive sales force itself, right? Tons and tons of salespeople and marketing people. So I don't know. I think, what's interesting is that we're based in Silicon Valley, we're based in Palo Alto, and we see over the last 2 years, for the very first time, I see kind of a big change in the Valley when it comes to how people think about salespeople and sales in general. And it used to be that sales was a really bad word. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And now it seems like more and more SaaS companies are interested in that. Yesterday, we just gave a workshop to Y Combinator startups about sales. And you would think like a few years ago, it would sales would keep every YC company away from your event, right? Just the word sales. Because it's like the atypical, geeky young kid that wants to build something in their pajamas that's going to explode, not have to do anything with selling to people. And we had 70 founders show up, and stay till 11 p.m. From 6 p.m. asking questions, wanting to know more, needing to know more, because they all realize, especially the ones that are in B2B, we need to get better at this. We need to understand this. We need to hire people that are doing sales. So I think there's kind of a shift going on in the SaaS space. I think it's just dealing with reality. I don't think that you need to have salespeople. I don't think salespeople are the greatest people in the world. I just think you have to be practical. If you have a business that sells to other businesses for a good amount of money, you're probably going to have to look into hiring and building a sales team.
Yeah. Do you have a rule of thumb for the level of the price of a product where it's worth having salespeople or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. And unfortunately, there's no hard figure that I can give, if it's X or Y. But just to give some guidelines, I think that when it comes to, so I'll separate between inbound and outbound sales. And inbound sales here means that you're selling to the people that are coming to you. So people that are signing for your trials, that contact you to get a demo, just people that come through your funnel in one way or another, you're then actively reaching out to sell. For that kind of inbound sales, a smaller price point can work. So maybe if your entire customer lifetime value is just $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, maybe even at that point, it makes sense to have an internal sales force to do inbound sales, because the frequency is higher, because you usually deal with a lot more, and the quality and conversion rates are higher because these people come to you. So that means that typically that salesperson is going to be selling a lot more and closing a lot more deals. So even at smaller price points, you're going to be able to make it work. And that salesperson has an easier job, so you can get more junior people because the job is not as hard, right? To talk to people that come to you. So the customer lifetime value for inbound sales needs to be in a couple of thousand. You know, 5K is probably a good benchmark. If you're at 3K, it still can work. But if you're at like customer lifetime value of $200, it might be really hard to make that work at all. Now, when it goes to outbound sales is when you do cold calling, cold emails. You interrupt somebody else. They didn't ask for it. They didn't think about you. But that type of sales, when you're going outbound, the ticket size needs to be a lot larger. So usually you want to be at the tens of thousands. Maybe it's 10K in your business. Maybe it's 20, 30, or 40,000 in customer lifetime value. The higher the price point, the more feasible it's going to be to make outbound sales really work well financially for your business. So if you have something that costs millions, you're probably going to be able to make it happen with outbound sales, and it's going to be profitable. So outbound sales needs to be, in the tens of thousands, inbound sales in the lower thousands. It's kind of a benchmark. There are exceptions to this rule, but this is kind of just to gauge as a business owner where you need to be to make these things work.
That makes perfect sense. So one of the questions that we had coming in here was around failing to recruit and failing to hire the right kind of salespeople, particularly when you're starting off. And this is a very common thing for software companies. They come from a sort of almost an anti-sales perspective sometimes. They then bring someone in, it's not the right person, or it hasn't worked out for whatever reason, and therefore selling is not the way to do it. How do you go about?
Yeah, so I've written about this. It's kind of the B2B sales hiring guide. It's on our blog. So here's the way that I would think about it as a founder early on. So here are the steps and stages that I would take in my hiring. The very first step is you need to sell yourself. There's no way around that. And I know even if you think, well, I'm an engineer, well, I'm not a people person, I have no experience in sales, it doesn't matter. Still do it. And Patrick McKenzie is a common friend of ours, and he's a speaker this year and has been plenty of times before. Patrick McKenzie, and I love Patrick, and we're really good friends, he's the geekiest person I know, right? He's the most like engineering, geeky. When he walks into a room, nobody would ever in their right mind confuse him for a salesperson, right? Really not. But
they were giving his money. They were giving their money, right?
Oh yeah, because Patrick is smart enough that he figured out what is sales. He figured out rationally, oh, this makes sense. This is a valuable and useful thing that I will probably need in my business and life. And then he uses some basic tactics to advance his business and life, and that's it. So he knows how to close a deal and how to make a sale. So it doesn't matter how bad you think you are at it. At the beginning, as a founder, you have to do some of that sales yourself. And that's even more importantly than to generate results is for you to gain insights on how that job is, like how it is to make that job, how it is to have these interactions with customers. There's going to be some insights that you're going to gain. I always say you can't have secondhand insights. You can't be hiring salespeople to go and talk to your customers and then rely on what they tell you totally in terms of making business decisions or deciding if sales works or not. You have to do some of that yourself. So at the beginning, you need to be doing sales yourself, even if it's a little bit, even if it sucks for you, you need to go through that. The second step then is that once you've done a little bit yourself, even if it was not that great, if you've generated some results, you go out there and you try to hire some junior people. Here's the mistake that most businesses do. They try to go in, basically hire into their company the solution to all their problems. So they want to go out and hire somebody super experienced that has a massive Rolodex, and it's going to come in and bring all this revenue and all these customers. And that's like a very tempting idea, and I get why it's so appealing. But the problem is that here's the problem. If you are able to hire a super senior salesperson in the very early stages, I would be scared to death of that person. Because here's the honest truth. There's three kinds of salespeople. The bad ones, it's easy to spot. Then there's the ones that are good at selling themselves as salespeople to people who don't know anything about sales. These are the dangerous ones. And then there are the good salespeople. Good salespeople are not going to apply for your job. They are always in demand. Good salespeople will not come to you and work for very little money because they're making tons of money.
Yeah.
So if you're very early stage and your business is unproven and you don't quite yet know what you're doing, you cannot hire somebody that's great at sales unless it's your brother, mother, sister, or somebody you know since childhood where you have kind of an unfair competitive relationship. Can't hire somebody that comes in that tells you, I have 30 years of experience, I have a massive Rolodex. Then why do you want to work here right now? Like, that's the honest question.
That classic profile of someone with 2 years at Salesforce, Microsoft, Oracle, and 2 years is just the amount of time that, I mean, you can have an incredible CV and work for all the blue chip software businesses, and that's about the amount of time it takes to get found out and get fired.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, so what you don't want to do that, right? So that's a mistake you want to avoid. But what you want to do instead is bring in some junior talent, people that maybe just have 1 or 2 year experience, maybe no experience whatsoever, but you bring in some junior talent, people that have the core kind of hustle, sales DNA, maybe people that want to be entrepreneurs or really interested in startups. So so they're not just in there for the money, they're in there for the ride and experience and learning. And you then do what I call founder-led. You have a founder-led sales team. So you are managing these people. And all you do, again, you don't try to do everything perfect. You don't try to set up the perfect systems. All you try to do is you try to go, well, I did a little bit of sales and it kind of worked. And now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to test if I can teach someone else to get somewhat of a result. And I want to get a little bit of a team around this so we can do more activity. We can do a lot more. And here's a hard truth, and here's something that's tough for people. But in sales, you might want to, even if you just want to hire one person, you might want to hire 2 or 3 on a test run to get to the one person that's the right person. That's usually good advice, and it's very counterintuitive to kind of an engineer that's hiring, is that in sales is such a performance art and performance sport that it's almost impossible to tell just by interviewing somebody if they're going to be good at it or not. And in the early days also, it's hard for you to know what type of salesperson you need. So you need to think about this like A/B testing the process. So if you just hire one person, that person might not be the right type of salesperson, so they don't generate results. The problem is you don't know if it's the problem is the person, or if the problem is the business.
You've got no control.
Right. Yeah. So what you do instead is you hire 2 or 3 junior people at once. You tell them totally transparently and honestly, hey, this is very early stages. The benefits to you guys are you're working directly with the founder. We're trying to establish the role in the sales department here. There's a lot of unknowns. It's exciting. It's also risky. We're going to do a 1-month trial where we're all going to work together, and we're going to figure out how to move forward. And if somebody doesn't want to do that, then they're probably not the right person for your starter right now. But junior people usually are, ready to do that. And if you get like 2 or 3 junior people for a month, you'll see that a lot of times one of them is going to be a breakout person that just generates a lot better results than the others. And then oh, let me hold on to this person, and the other 2 people I'll have to let go. And then I'll know now what kind of person we're looking for, right? So you get a lot more data and information in the early stages. And then just 2 more steps once you've done that. So first you do sales yourself, you bring in some junior people, and once that's kind of a little bit working, again, we never talk about perfection. We're always just talking about like some deals come through, some things work, although it's still messy. Then you go and you find a junior sales manager, somebody that maybe has like 1 or 2 years experience managing a small sales team that just a year ago became a sales manager at a SaaS company. And you bring that person in, and now they go from sales manager to sales director, and you tell them, listen, here's everything I've done. Here's the little team I've built. Now, please take over and improve on what I have. And that person is going to be excited because it's a step up in their career. They can come in, and everything they learned in the past year, all the mistakes they made at this other SaaS company, they come in and you instant wins. all the things they had to do wrong there, they come in and they now know how to do it, and they take your maybe 2-person team, whatever it is that you have, and they double it to 4 or 5 or 6, and they improve it and they make it better. And once that's running, that is the time to then hire like a VP of sales or somebody that's a very like senior sales leader. That person comes in, and there's a team and a process in place, and now that person scales that up. And that person is focused on hiring and training and compensation plans and all these types of things. but you want to make sure that you are hiring the right people at the right step. And too many companies either go out and try to hire the senior 30 years experienced sales guy that's going to bring in all the money too early, or they bring in the VP of sales, which is also dangerous, too early. A VP of sales needs a team, a structure, and things that are working to improve and scale. It's not the right type of person to come in and figure out the early days and make the first phone calls and do that kind of grunt work. They're usually not good at it. And if they are, they're not good VPs of sales. So that's kind of the step-by-step process that I would think of. And if this sounds like more work than you'd like it to be, it's because it is typically. It really is.
Damn customers.
But we also all know, how many times have we as entrepreneurs tried to take shortcuts and it just led to a more painful and longer road. So just do it right, and it's going to save you time in the long term.
Yeah, and I think that all of those concepts, I think, are echoed by a lot of other speakers that we've had at Business of Software. So Jason Cohen, for example, has spoken about the mistakes that he made. We have this kind of legendary figure, Frank Slickman, who's the VP of sales at every other company, and kind of comes in and messes up sales in every startup possible. Joel Spolsky as well. I mean, and Joel actually is. He claims to hate salespeople. He's the best salesperson I think I've ever met. And he kind of wanders in and sits down with customers and says, "Oh, this is terrible. We don't have salespeople in our company." Sits down with them and walks out with a check for however many tens of thousands of dollars it is at the end. And I think there's a real art in. I agree. Founder-driven sales are fantastic. I think you always have the founder advantage that Jason talked about. But getting beyond that is a trick. And I think the thing that you've said there that seems to have the most common thing is bringing in the big person too early.
Yeah.
And it's great to hear that it is hard work.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to comment on the sales side of things, I think we all agree we hate bad salespeople. But I think that what most people forget, and rightfully so, is that bad is the important word here. It's not that we hate salespeople. Because sales, if you break it down, what sales is nothing else than result-driven communication. When we two talk and there's no aim in that conversation, we're just talking. But the moment I want to generate a result in one way or another, I'm selling, right? And it doesn't matter if I'm trying to get you to join my company as an employee, if I want you as a journalist to write about my company, if it's getting your investment, or if it's getting you as a customer. Whenever I communicate with another human being and I have the result I want to generate, I'm selling in one way or another. And I think that we all love great sales, because great sales comes from a positive place. There's somebody that cares about creating value and that knows how to communicate in a way where things happen and we get to a decision and a result and hopefully a positive outcome. Nobody hates that. But what we all hate is the selfish person that comes into every conversation with the intent to get something from you for them, and they don't care about if it's good for you or not. And they don't listen to you, they don't pay attention to you because they don't care about anything else other than themselves. Those are the type of interactions we all dislike. And I think that too many of us, or most of us, grew up thinking that that's what sales is. Like being a selfish a-hole is what sales is. I'd like to change that image, but I also totally get why people have that. And I think that there's too much bad sales going on around the world.
I agree. And I have to say I'm a sucker for a good salesperson, and
Me too.
It's so rare that you find really great people. But when I do, I quite often end up buying things I don't really need because I bumped into someone in a shop and they know what they're talking about, and especially hardware stores and things like that. Gadgets, tools. I've got a cupboard full of useless stuff that I'm never going to use, but the guy that runs my local hardware store is awesome.
There you go.
Okay. Hustle.
Yes.
Is hustle separate? Is hustle that thing that gives salespeople a bad name, or is hustle something else? What do you mean by hustle?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I mean, it depends on what your definition of that word is. For me, hustle means hustle is much more an attitude than anything else. And it's an attitude, it's a massive bias towards action. It is the ability to move forward, although you're facing rejection and resistance, and being able to adjust to that resistance without slowing down because it hurts. So it's just a type of, I'm always joking, like, in Silicon Valley or in startups in general, there's only three type of people in the early days that create value. People that are hackers, that are building the product, people that are designers, that are designing the product, and people that are hustlers, which are people that make things happen, that make transactions happen. And hustle can mean that you're hustling press to get articles about your business. Hustling can mean that you go and hustle in terms of getting the right people to join your company. There's employees, investors, advisors, or whatever else it is. Or it can mean that going out and getting customers. But it means that you're the person that's out there in the real world making things happen for the business. So that's really what the hustle is in my world.
Cool. That's a great definition. I buy that. And funnily enough, we have, as we go through our activities, we have this kind of expression in the office, which is let's get our hustle hats on. And it is not necessarily about going off and doing some sales. It's actually about just getting some momentum and some real focus on the results. I really like that. It
also is an attitude, like it's the difference. Let's take a sports analogy. It's the difference between a player getting on the field or a team getting on the field, and you can sense that they're in it to win, versus a team that shows up and they're just here to play, right? Sometimes, and we all do this, sometimes we just show up to show up, right? And we just write the email to have it written, and we just make the presentation to do the presentation. And sometimes we come into the interaction with an attitude to win and with a determination to make this great. And I think the hustle is like that kind of an energy where you don't just play to play, you play to win, and you're also willing to lose because of that. Like you're serious about it, and you're going all in versus kind of half-assing it and just doing the job, right?
Yeah. So I mean, and I'd say that the best example, the best signal I get from any salespeople that I've ever worked with that they are just not capable of hustling is when you say, "Have you followed up with someone?" And they're like, "Yeah, sent them an email." And then expect something magical to happen. And even 10 years ago, when getting email was relatively rare, people would kind of think that was the end of the job, and then they would have to go. I think there are so many ways of getting in touch and communicating with the people you want to work with these days that there's really kind of no excuse for that passive thing at all.
Yeah, let me give a piece of advice, which is, and I give a lot of advice, and I give a lot of talks and workshops and things like that, but this one little piece of information is the highest ROI advice that I give, measured by the amount of emails I get by now daily of people telling me results that they generated through this. And it's very simple advice. It's relating to follow-up. I have a very simple rule, which is when you have a positive interaction with somebody, a good conversation, a good phone call, an email exchange where they showed some interest or they seem to be interested in what you're doing, and then they go silent, you never, ever, ever stop following up.
Yeah.
And even if, infinity is too long for you, then just double the amount of follow-up that you would typically do. The follow-up is where winning happens. Magic happens in the follow-up. Here's, I think, why most people don't follow up and follow through is because they assume that silence means rejection. Here's what I do. My assumption and hypothesis is that silence means the person is busy. They have another life. Something happened. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they have family issues. Maybe the business has something happened. I'm not the center of their universe, but it's my job to manage this relationship and champion it. So I'm just going to keep following up until you have a chance and a moment to respond to me. If you respond no, I'll respect that, but I will not take silence as rejection. And just by doing that, like we're writing a book. We have like over 100 case studies by now of people showing us how they closed this massive deal, how they raised money, how they got press, how they made all these things happen just by not stopping with a follow-up. And then, down the line, people reply, and it's usually always the same. Thank you so much for following up. Something came up, so we were distracted for a while. Yes, let's move forward. Right.
This is exactly. Just 10 years ago, I was involved in another startup. And it was doing research for investors into tech companies across Europe. And my record, and we were trying to sell them a subscription to something. It was about £15,000. So reasonably high ticket for what it was, which was something that we hadn't actually created yet. And there was one particular VC that I chased after, and it just became a point of honor that I was going to get hold of them. They would occasionally respond to an email, but quite non-committally, and I had 37 unreturned calls over 3 months, and then got hold of him. And he was like, and it's exactly that. He actually then offered me a job in one of the companies he was working in. He'd been working in a bunch of deals. He needed a guy who was going to do biz dev for it. It was like, that's the sort of person I want to work with. So, and we got the money, and they were great customers ever since. So, these things do happen. You can, as long as you do it with a bit of humor, if someone says no, please go away, then you have to respect that as well. But no, that's really cool. Okay, so what are we going to talk about in Boston? Just as a quick preview,
as a teaser.
Yeah,
I'm not telling you guys that I would not give it away. So the honest truth is like that. I don't fully know yet what I'm going to be talking about, and here's why. I know that it's going to relate to SaaS and sales because those are the things I know the most about and have the most experience in. But what I like to do in my talks, and for people that are interested, you guys can easily go to YouTube, type in my name. You'll find tons of talks that I've given, just to get a sense if you care about that, the value that I offer, the content that I offer, if that's going to be interesting to you or not. But what I like to do is, I'm at my best in giving the audience something of value when what I talk about is as fresh as possible. And there's certain themes throughout my talk. So I might be talking about follow-up. I might talk about like systemizing your sales process for your SaaS business. I might be talking about most of my stuff is very tactical. So it's not very high level. It's very like tactics, strategies, things you can implement, templates, emails, right? Because we're coming from the trench. I'm running a SaaS business, and I talk to 20, 30 founders every week that ask for sales advice, and all of them are SaaS founders. So I hear kind of all the problems people have. I hear all their solutions. And then what I try to do is, as an event approaches, and I'm so excited about the Business of Software conference. It's like so gonna be cool. Every single person I know and respect, all of them name you guys as the #1 conference they want to go to, the #1 conference that creates value for them. So I'm so pumped to be part of that. So awesome. What happens is every day, as we're approaching the conference, I'm going to try to crystallize what is going to be the most valuable to share, and I'm going to try to be as passionate and as giving as I can once I get the honor of being on stage.
Brilliant. Do you know what? We've been talking and you're on YouTube. You've been here for 30 minutes and you didn't swear once. I'm very impressed.
Hey, is this the test? That was the test. That was Mark. We had a chat earlier. Mark was like, "Hey, if you're on my stage, it'd be nice if you don't swear as much. I swear a lot typically." And I said, Mark, this is your house. I'm going to respect your rules. I don't have to swear necessarily. So I'm glad I'm passing the Hangout test.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I think we've been talking to your colleagues as well. There might be a chance for you to do a workshop or something post-event, which we would love you to do. And
I'd love to do that.
I think we'll certainly find a group of willing participants. So that's fantastic. Is there anything else that we can? Are there any questions that you've got about conference and all the rest of it?
Yes. Let's do just this. Just tweet at me at Steli, Steli. If you're coming to Business or Software, I want to hear from you. Like, I want to know, what are you doing? What are you interested in? If you have any suggestions, feedback, or questions, you're like, Steli, please talk about XYZ, or Steli, this is the one topic I'm most interested in. Just tweet it and let me know. It's going to definitely influence my decision. And even if I don't talk about that, I'll find you at the conference and we'll talk about it. So yeah, just tweet at me at Steli.
Fantastic, Steli. Can't wait to meet you in real life, and it's great to have you along. It's brilliant to spend a bit of time and just get a sense of what you're about. I know that there's a lot more behind both the process that you've been doing for other people, but also Closio, and I'm sure we can pick up on that another point. But really excited to have you on board. Can't wait for Boston, and we'll see you soon.
I see you soon. I'm super excited. Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.